Hello and welcome here to Belgium, to Spa-Francorchamps, as we have our Porsche GT2 Supersportscar Weekend. The qualifying session about to get underway here around one of the world's most evocative circuits, and certainly here this weekend, the centre of the GT racing world. We have got the brand new, for many people here this weekend, Porsche GT2 RS Club Sport car here, and also, wow, the 935 that was launched only last year at Rennsport in America at Laguna Seca, but for many people around the world, it's the first time they've even seen a car in the carbon fibre, let alone go around a racetrack. My name is Toby Moody. I've got Graham Goodwin from Daily Sports Car alongside me, and also in the commentary box we've got Matthias Schultz, who is the project leader for director of GT race cars for Porsche Motorsport. We'll catch up with Matthias in a moment. But Graham, as I said, it's the centre of the GT racing world here this weekend, and we have got some rather tasty equipment about to go out on the racetrack.
We have, and lots of them as well. Scorchingly hot here, slightly cooler. Just saw popping up the graphic saying 33.2 degrees. That is almost 10 degrees cooler than we had at points yesterday. 41 degrees, record temperatures here in Belgium. It is absolutely sweltering. But I spent time down in the paddock with the Porsches yesterday, and there's a lot of very enthusiastic owners cannot wait to get those cars out onto track for what is an historic moment. It's not just the competitive debut of new cars, it's the competitive debut of a brand new class of GT race car, Toby. And for me, that's the massive attraction here. What is the road ahead going to be for GT2?
That was announced to the world here this time last year by Stefan Rattel. It's, as you say, it's another window of GT racing that is going to take that part of GT racing forward. Not just Porsche are involved, Audi are involved, who knows what else is going to be involved in the future. But these cars are on their way. So just to recap, the GT2 RS Club Sport car, 700 horsepower from a 3.8 litre flat six twin turbocharged engine. 200 off of the models have been produced, and weighing under just under 1,400 kilos. Quite something to behold. But the car leading them round, that is the Porsche 935, the evocation, if I could call it that. Only 77 of those models, essentially a GT2 RS underneath it, but the concepts and the lines and the aerodynamics and the bodywork taking everybody's breath away.
Absolutely, it's a nod to history, more than a nod to history, and the man driving that car, the number 8 car, is a man who's in the history books now. He's the reigning FIWC GTM champion, so a world championship win for Egidio Perfetti, and took with that the win as well in the GTM class aboard Porsche 911 RSR, the Project 1 team, the world's most successful one-make Porsche team. Took the win at Le Mans 24 Hours this week as well, this year as well. So lots of familiar names. You'll see one or two familiar paint schemes as well as these cars come by. At least the number 77 car going by us right now. And that is Christian Reed, the Proto Competition team principal, and a very evocative team in all sorts of GT racing.
Jan-Erik Schluten, part of the Ring Police. He's racing here this weekend as well. Just catching up with him with that, again, standout livery. Big following for him on all of his digital channels. So, yeah, he's just about to bed himself in. Just to recap, we've got a 45-minute session. 45-minute session for this qualifying. Then we've got a race this evening, which will take place at 4:45 Central European time tonight. That is 4:45 GMT.
3:45 back in the UK.
2:45 GMT.
2:45 GMT.
2:45 GMT.
Pretty summertime at the moment.
Yeah, because we are being streamed all over the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching here in the UK. So after that race one tonight, then we've got another race tomorrow just after 1 o'clock here Central European time.
Klaus Abelin, another name very familiar to followers of European GT racing. He is the team principal of the Fricadelli racing team, famous of course for their adventures in VLN, the Nürburgring 24 Hours in years past. Also had a crack at the Daytona 24 Hours and the Porsche not so very long ago. Cars flying up through Virgin Radion now. 42 minutes still to go in what's a generous qualifying session for these cars. So in a couple of minutes' time, we'll start to see the potential times here. We saw some pretty spectacular times yesterday, Toby, in free practice, not least from Egidio Perfetti in that 935, a 2:22 from Egidio as he starts to dial himself in there. He's a very capable gentleman driver indeed, but that would have put him somewhere around the top 40 for the Spa 24 Hours proper.
Where there's 73 cars on the grid, so
72, 72 cars, 71 of which are the GT3 specification. Technically, a cut above in terms of the potential lap time. Well, Egidio didn't get that memo.
Abelan was fourth quickest yesterday with his GT2 RS Club Sport. He's got the hazards flashing, but the purity of that colour scheme, quite something. Also keep an eye out for one of the 935s that's here this weekend. That's been driven with the number 29 on the side by Mark Inishen, the Swiss driver. Complete carbon, no colour scheme, no wrap on it, nothing at all, but the weave of the carbon fibre. And if you haven't seen the pictures of it wherever they may be around the internet, or if you're around and you got a chance to come and see it here in the paddock, do come and have a look, because it is just wonderful.
So one of those pictures not suitable for work. Don't open it on the internet because your boss wouldn't be pleased about that. But you're right, it's a bare naked carbon car, and we do like to see those from time to time. Keeping with Klaus Adler, a little bit of a moment, but rear wheel into the dirt just a couple of corners ago, but managed to gather that one up because there's a wide there as well. Comes round to complete the lap.
We've got Sir Chris Hoy driving here as well. He is in the predominantly black car with the Martini stripes. You will be catching up with that as the session progresses. Sir Chris Hoy, 11-time a cycling world champion, 6 times an Olympic gold medalist, the second most successful Olympic cyclist ever. Knighted, of course, in the UK back in 2009, and no stranger to GT racing, whether or not it's in the UK, in Europe, at Le Mans, and a very capable pair of hands as well behind the wheel. And although they had an Olympic Games in Greece some years ago where it was rather warm, he said it was warmer when we came to a stop yesterday, and I had to remain in the car because of some technical measurements being taken. He said it was very hot indeed. As Graham said, this part of Europe at the moment is sweltering. 41, 42 degrees here yesterday.
And if a man with the fitness levels of Chris Hoy is saying it's warm, you know it's warm. That's not a man that doesn't know about commitment to his physical condition. It was ridiculously hot yesterday. 69 car coming around for another crack, goes top of the 226.836 from Sluton, the Hard Force car.
Graham, if I could bring in Matthias Schultz, that would be fantastic. Matthias is the director of GT race cars on behalf of Porsche Motorsport. Matthias, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, hello.
Thank you for joining us up here in the commentary box. You've got quite some workshop, quite some projects underneath your control. Just give us a quick review of what you're doing in your workshop at the moment in Weissach.
In moment we are working hardly on a next step of the new, maybe of the new Cup car for sure. And now in my department, mainly we are working on cars like the GT2 Club Sport and the GT4 Club Sport, the 935 and the Cup car. And for sure we have a lot of other ideas, but I think it's not the right time to talk about in moments. Maybe next year.
Well, we shall. We shall wait and see what announcements you've got, because that's one of the things you did with the 935. You surprised people at Rennsport at Laguna Seca last year. There was the car and nobody knew about it. I mean, what a way to unveil your hard work. You must have been very proud.
For sure we are very proud on, because it was for us a special thing as well. In our daily work we work hardly on our projects. We have a very tiny timetable to bring the cars on the road and for our testings and developments and so on. So to give you an idea, normally we are working 1.5 years on a car product from our race cars, 1.5 or up to 2 years. It depends on the car itself. Now, from the 935, we were a little bit surprised about the idea. We stuck in the middle of the development of a GT2 RS Club Sport project, and to be honest, the GT2 development was a challenge for its own. It's a very powerful car, and the idea to make from the road car with 700 horsepower as a race car. So some colleagues of us say that if we have taken some trucks or something like that, but then we were sure that we can make here or bring the story again what we have done with the GT4 Club Sport and make other kind of Club Sport car with that. And as we had really enough of headache with the development of the car, some colleagues, they have drunk a coffee. There was a colleague from the studio department joining us, and you must know we in this kind of cars we work every time very close together with the studio, that we get from there the ideas what we can improve for the design and so on. We are not only in the wine channel, so the studio have to say, is this now a really nice design, good looking for a Porsche race car. So, and yeah, we are talking, and then he said, a colleague of mine, he has to bring some ideas how we can make liveries for the GT2 Club Sport, and he brought the idea to make something of the Moby Dick, such a heritage thing, and but the idea was just to make a livery, not a car. And then our design colleague, it's Grant Larson, he said, 935 Moby Dick, that's a good idea. And then he went back to his office. 2 days later, he came to Frank Walliser, myself, and said, yeah, I have a brilliant idea. And then he brought some sketches of the GT2 Club Sport, but as 935. And he said, yeah, it's really looking really, really great.
Now it
and
starts.
That was the starting point of the project of the 935. And then we said, okay, we can't do two cars. We have to decide, do we do a GT2 Club Sport? And we were sure that that's the right way. And so the idea came up to make a birthday present from the motorsport department to the company for the 7th anniversary, and we started to work on it. Yeah.
What a great little story. What a great little story. The testing involved with the GT2 RS Club Sport, though, you don't just go around Weissach all day. Where else have you been testing?
Yeah, normally we just really do our rollout in Weissach to really double check if the first prototype is working good enough to bring it out for a real test. And then we start our first functional testing, let me say, around Europe, where we have special test track for special testings of components. For example, we like to start in Oschersleben because there are the curbs very hard, and so we can figure out if the damper's working properly, the carriage system is working properly, and so we go through Europe with Adria, where we prefer the summer times with very, very hot temperatures.
You could come to Spa, and it's closer.
And Spa is closer. It's a good idea, and it's hotter.
but that was only yesterday and today. Yes. Where else in Europe might you go for different?
Yeah, so then we go from racetrack to racetrack. We do it normally in the first step for the functional tests from Adria, Lausitzring, Monza, Portimao. It depends a little bit which racetracks are available. And for us important is to have different characters for testing the different things. And then we rebuild our cars, improve the technology, and then we start a long run with the cars, and there we make a racetrack hopping again. And normally, we prefer to have the same roundup of the racetracks, the same kind of style, and then for sure, as Porsche, we have to finalize our tests at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. That's then the
only after all the tracks.
You know, the double check that everything is fine.
The final sign-off. The final sign-off.
Yeah.
Just a quick glimpse there of James Sofronas, Global Motorsports Group car. He's had a bit of a difficult week because his bags have been lost from America. So he's lost his helmet, he's lost his suit, his boots, his gloves. Managed to find a clean balaclava somewhere, but team boss Uwe Alsen very kindly drove back to base, got some more kit. He said, James said, the helmet's a little bit small, so I sound a little bit different on the radio, but he's in good spirits and he's had a good lap there, 2:25.3 that we saw a moment ago. Frank Kraling, another Uwe Alsen Motorsport run car, is just making its way down the hill. Frank is a Spa first timer, so that's quite a baptism of fire, but he knows his way around the Nordschleife, he knows his way around many of the VLN races there. He's won a couple of SP7 championships as well, but he's loving Spa. How can you not love Spa? It's what a way, Matthias, to get to learn Spa in this car. I mean, it's the stuff of dreams, isn't it?
Yeah, I think yes, and it's really a great story. For us, it's a great story as well to make the market launch here in Spa in this really brilliant surroundings of the 24-hour race and the spirit of Spa. It's really cool to see, and it's nice to see that the car is really running very, very nice, very perfectly, and the teams are happy with the car. That's the most important thing.
What test drivers did you employ to develop the car? Were they drivers that we know in the bigger GT world, or have you got other people? How did it work?
Yeah, for us, it's really a very comfortable situation that we have our really good work drivers in the GT scene there, and for sure we involve them. For example, Mark Lieb, he left the cockpit. For him, maybe it's a crazy situation. For me, it's a very lucky situation to have a guy like Mark Lieb in the project team, and he was in this car for the new GT4 and for the GT2. He was responsible for the sales and marketing, and he brought in the very important input from the view of a race driver and from a project team member, and the testings. So we include for sure our Mark Lieb as well, and then we have a lot of good drivers like Wolf Hensler, Sven Müller, Klaus Bachler, Lars Kern for sure. He is very famous in our company for doing the hot laps and the record laps with our cars, and so on. It's going through. Jörg Bergmeister is testing the car, and so it's.
It wouldn't be a Porsche without him behind the wheel.
For sure, yeah. So I think nearly everybody from the GT scene has has run the car once in a test. So we're shifting the drivers that we have a lot of input from different views.
But didn't you work with Mark Lieb with the 918, because he did a lap?
Yeah, we worked together with
him.
We worked very close together with Mark Lieb. Mark Lieb was a little bit the rookie of the 918 Spider project together with Walter Röhrl. And he did a record lap.
He did. I remember seeing on the internet. Where are the cars produced? How are they produced? How have they been constructed?
It's a nice question, because it's something very special. I think we do here with Porsche this kind of cars, and it's special for the GT3 Cup, for the GT4 Club Sport, and for the GT2 and 935 as well. We produce them directly in Zuffenhausen, in the normal mounting bulk where every street car and road car is produced. And it's very strange to see that up to 5 race cars a day are produced in Zuffenhausen. So you can really imagine that there is a Carrera Cabrio, then it's coming a GT2 or a GT3, then there's a race car, then it's a Boxster, then there's a Cayman, then it's again a race car. So it's a funny situation for us as project team. If you see a road car project has a lot of hundreds of persons working in, they have 3 to 4 years time to develop and to bring the car into the production. For us, we have only 1.5 years or 2 years, and normally the project team is between 20 or maximum 30 people working on such kind of car. But then, if the development and testing is finished, we really have to do nearly everything similar like our colleagues from the road car for the production line, because there's one really big law in Zuffenhausen. The production line didn't have to stop at any time because something is missing or something is going wrong. So you have really to bring in the car like every road car, and means for the suppliers, for us, it's a crazy situation.
Perfect situation, Quickest at the moment is Jan-Erik Sluten, 2:24.4, little bit difference to the 2:22.8 that we saw last night.
I think they're a little bit
so
in
maybe just a little bit warmer at the moment. Some people have kept some tyres for today. Some people used up another set yesterday. Obviously, you're going to need a set of tyres for the first race this evening and then the second race tomorrow before the start of the 2019 Spa 24 hours. But at the moment, it is Schluten from Sofronis, from Abelin, from Perfetti, who was quickest yesterday. I think Perfetti's been in the pits for quite some time, so we shall see how that one pans out. Graham's been watching the times, and maybe it's just a little bit too warm. Who knows?
Actually, there's a couple of the guys that have gone quicker than this, but lost a couple of laps to, I'm afraid, a little bit of indiscipline with track limits. They're just, I think, being slapped back into place, and we're beginning to see the times coming back. As Giulio Perfetti has spent some time in the pits, is currently on what could well be his quickest lap. It's the fastest first sector of the session. It's the fastest second sector now of the session. So in just under 50 seconds time, we'll see just how close Giulio can get to that 2:22 he put in yesterday. 2:26.0 has him fourth quickest in the session right now, to Jan-Erik Schluten and to Jim Sofronis, Klaus Abelin. That's the 1-2-3, and that is 3 of the 911 GT2 RS Club Sports ahead of this 935. Here he comes to complete this lap. And what is he going to produce here? 2:26.0 it was. 2:24.4 is the best to this point. And he goes to the top. It's a 2:23.775 for Giulio Perfetti. I think he's still got something left in the locker there, Toby.
Certainly, and as we go, big stop, of course, for the final chicane. Big stop. A lot of people getting caught out in all the classes that we've got running here at Spa this weekend. Philipp Neufer caught up with him yesterday. He knows his way around the Nordschleife, and he is just smiling, grinning from ear to ear. He's grinning like a proverbial Cheshire cat, as we would say in English. But what an opportunity that he's got here. He's done 10 years around the Nordschleife, but he's always been with Hubersport. Now, here's a replay of the ends of Perfetti's lap, or just his quick lap, should I say, and using all the road and then some.
He's attacking this lap, and wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw that Giulio Perfetti, maybe not this lap, but maybe the next one. It's still quick, into 39s for his first sector. That's there and thereabout, just a couple of tenths off his best. But it seemed to me he lost a little bit of available time in the third sector last time around. 25 minutes left, there's plenty of time to go here. As I say, generous qualifying session for these cars as the drivers learn what is a very new platform for very many of them.
Absolutely. A couple of people have done a quick track day, a quick chance to bed themselves in, but for a lot of people, it's absolutely first time out when first practice got underway. Graham, we heard Matthias talking about the fact that this 935 was really born out from a colour scheme that was going to be put on the regular GT2 RS body shape. But here we are with a new colour scheme, with this Mentos colour scheme. That's the sort of 2019 new retro colour scheme. The colour schemes that they're making that are available at Porsche, the Golf livery, the Momo red and yellow.
Of course they are.
Red livery.
Why wouldn't you?
I thought this was the Sachs livery, but it's not quite.
It's beautifully done. It's a nod towards the heritage livery on that car. Of course we're going to see that. And it was a lovely story from Matthias. That's what you want, isn't it, from the competition department of a major brand like Porsche, where it's every nook and cranny in that place is all about motorsport, all about the heritage of the sport. It's great to hear that people have got that passion to go away, be given one job, and I'm sure Matthias will forgive us for saying so, completely annoy his bosses and go off and do another one
Goes
instead.
another one, yeah. And he goes quickest as well, does Perfetti, on a 2:23.1. So he now heads the field by 1.34 seconds as he barrels it down towards Eau Rouge.
He's having fun now.
Interestingly, when I said, where did you get the colour scheme from? He said, well, do you remember I did the Michelin Le Mans Cup a few years ago? And I went, yeah. He says, well, I was going to do it again, but I didn't. But this was the colour scheme I was going to use.
Yes, it was a pure white.
So it was sort of on the back burner, and he got that same design out.
It turned up, from memory, I think you mentioned him, I think Klaas Backler was in the car that day. It was all over white 911 GT3R with just some very subtle Mentos branding on it. It looked actually like a Mentos Mint, the thing. It was pure white. And he came along, did a little bit of racing in that, proved his skill set, moved on up into the GTE class in the ELMS and now the WEC, and he's a firm part of that family now. It's great to see him trying his hand out here. Here's Sir Chris Hoy.
Here we are. Well, you can't have a colour scheme with a Porsche around Spa without having some Martini colours. You have to have them. And with this sort of matte black, kind of satin black base that they've got, and then the Martini stripes over the top. There's another iteration of the Martini stripes on one of the other cars. We'll see that later. But Sir Chris Hoy is currently in 8th position with the number 6 car, driven over from the UK with, well, what else? A Porsche GT2 RS. So he said it was quite something to have the whole weekend immersed within the car, behind the wheel. And as the cyclist, well, really now motor racing driver, makes his way down. There you can see how steep it is down towards Eau Rouge. You look at the level seats in the grandstand, it gives you some idea of what a drop it is, and there's a wall facing the drivers as they go through Eau Rouge. A couple of them go down the gears, quick dab of the brakes, huge using of the curbs on the left-hand kink on the way through Eau Rouge, but already he's out of it and going down the Campbell Straight.
You have to see these Toby quite rightly says, the kind of elevation here is spectacular. I've fallen down less steep hills in Eau Rouge. It really is it's a tough ask just to walk up it at pace. Chris Hoy, though, is enjoying the 700 horsepower under his right foot at the moment, isn't he? An established racer, previous European champion in the LMP3 class, did the Porsche Super Cup round supporting the British Grand Prix just a couple of weeks ago. Did pretty well in there, and getting his head around what it feels like around this most challenging of circuits in this brand new Porsche race car. So we could do to deal with that. It is James Sofronis, who is still, by the way, 3rd quickest at 2:25.395, 2nd quickest of the GT2 RS Club Sports at the moment. Still quick times coming in.
Now, the car in front of him, that is the unpainted pure carbon car of Mark Inishen. That is the number 29 car, and we were touching on that earlier, the fact that it's the naked carbon fibre. You can see the weave, and how proud are the engineers under the guidance of Matthias up here in the commentary box to see that car racing in, well, one of the 3 purest circuits that can be for GT racing: Nordschleife, Spa, and arguably Le Mans.
Yeah, I think they're all totally unique. Both you and I have trotted the path of the international racing circuit between the 3, and you just have to readjust your internal clock to take account the fact that they're completely different challenges, completely different lap times, and yet hold some of the identical challenges. Into the pit lane comes Sir Chris Hoy, and he will come into pit lane with how long left here? We've got just under, it was 18.5 minutes left, and Chris in 10th position.
He did say yesterday, sorry Graham, he just said yesterday he's just got to get into his head how late you can brake. That was one of the things a lot of the drivers said to me. Yeah, the power is, and then he started laughing, he started grinning. With 700 horsepower, oh, you never stop laughing when you unleash 700 horsepower. But he said the brakes is just another level. And how many times have we heard that in all forms of motorsport, Graham? Yeah, the power, yeah, you can get used to that. But the brakes, I can't get my head around it. I think I'm going to go off, but I won't.
But that I think when people think about kind of speed in a road car, where they get it wrong about speed in terms of motorsport, it's not about speed in a straight line, it's about how late you can brake, how quickly you can turn in, what you can carry through the slow, medium and high-speed corners, and that's what this platform is designed to do. Big rear wing on the back, plenty of aerodynamic grip there, big fat tyres on this with plenty of mechanical grip, but the ace in the hole for the GT2 formula is about as much power as a couple of space shuttles actually strapped to the back there, rear deck of the car. Really unbelievable power for a gentleman driver in a GT car.
I think any driver, when you got 700 horsepower and under 1,400 kilos. Georg Bernsteiner, the other Martini liveried car, makes his way through Eau Rouge and up and away and over. What a perfect Spa-Francorchamps view. Graham, if I could bring Matthias back in for a moment, that'd be fantastic. You must be, Matthias, you must be very proud to see these cars here today. You must be very fulfilled.
Yeah, for sure. It's really very, very cool to see that we have here a one-make series of a field of 15 cars immediately from customers. That for sure we are coming to present a car here and to have fun. Because as you mentioned, it's really the teams here to have a fun. Let me say a fun race, because it's not a championship. So it's the first race of the car, and it's good to see that there is so much interest for these kind of cars, because it's a crazy situation. The car is something in between. It's not a GT3R. We are very close, like we see to the performance of a GT3R. But it's a club sport. So, and for us, it's important to really figure out that this car is for on the one hand, we say for our entry-level racers, because it's very close to some features of a street car. We have a ABS in the car, we have the safety systems of the PSM, means the ESC and the TC, and the very convenient PDK gearbox. So the step is much easier to go in such a car than, for example, to go in a cup car, which is really very pure race car, and that is really the idea to improve this kind of field of race cars. And so for us it's really very nice. It's the teams have fun, and I think for the audience and for us it's a very nice situation.
Proud moment. Exactly. One of the things that a lot of the drivers said to me yesterday was that the water levels were getting low. Just explain to people why you've got water being injected into these engines nowadays.
Yeah, it's a turbo engine, and as you know, if you have a turbo, the hot temperatures are a little bit a problem, like with every engine, and so we have the intercoolers, and to improve to keep the 700 horsepower as long as possible. And in the car, and so that it doesn't matter which temperature is outside, we improve the intercooler system, and we put in the water system from the street car as well to have to keep the 700 horsepower as long as possible on outside temperatures there, and for sure we have the road car has a 5-liter fuel tank of water, not fuel cell, the water tank, but 5 liter is nothing for us, because we just running hot laps with the car, and so we need the water all the time. So we enlarged the water tank to 20 liters, and so for us it's possible with the improved intercoolers and the big water tank to keep the 700 horsepower up to 38 degrees in the car. So yesterday it was a little bit critical, and that's because the water consumption was so high. But normally we figured out that if you have a pit stop, then you can refill the fuel and refill the water in the same time, and that's why we have this 20 liter and the 115 fuel cell. And to be honest, the consumption of water of the car is not so less. We need 12 liter water in 100 kilometers, or 20 liters for approximately 1 hour. So it depends a little bit on the outside temperature.
I think with 700 horsepower after an hour, you're out of breath anyway. I think it's a big hit. Talking about a good run here, Jan-Erik Sluten is doing well. He was up at the first intermediate split.
He's very, very fast, yeah.
He's second overall at the moment behind Perfetti to the tune of 1.1 seconds at the end of the lap. He's 0.9 off after the second intermediate split. He's on his way back towards the pits as we speak, using all the road. It's a big corner, isn't it? It's a big, mighty corner. Oh, it's moving around a little bit. With that kind of speed, they're hitting, what, 270 kilometers an hour or so in practice yesterday. Good stop, through the right, through the left, uphill it is there, and then unleash the 700 horsepower. A little bit of traction control, maybe you can change the traction control level on the steering wheel in front of you. But at the end of the lap, it was a 224.6. That compares with the 224.2 that Jan-Erik did earlier. So still Perfetti on the pole position from Sluten, from Sofronis, from Abelen. That's your second row. Then Reed, then Bernsteiner. That's your third row. And then Gorig and Kraling are next up. Making his way down the Kemmel Straight once more. A little bit of a time for a breather. Matthias did mention that there's air conditioning in the car, so everybody's got it on low, but maybe somebody will turn the air conditioning off for a hot lap. See if it'll make, what, 5 horsepower, a few horsepower? I don't know.
It's just a few horsepower, yeah. You gain with the AC. For sure you can switch it off for the one fast lap. But on the other hand, I think maybe you lost some horsepower, but on the other side you gain so much concentration of the driver if you keep it on. So it depends a little bit on the, I think, on the physical condition of the driver. Maybe Chris Hoy, he is able to run the whole race of 30 minutes without, I don't know. But it's really nice to see how good the qualifying is, and that we gained really very, very good GT teams here for this race. And yeah, it's a very hard fighting moment on the racetrack, I think.
Just going through, sorry, Matthias. Just going through your shots was the car that looked like it's a Golf livery, but actually it's well, Edward Lewis Browner is the driver there. It's got a 96 on the side of it, but he's just purchased the Carrera Slot Car Company. As part of his business, together with Revell, and they always had that colour scheme on the shelf as a livery that they could use for one of the slot cars, and he said, oh, I'll put it on a real car. So that's quite something. In the meantime, as we look at here, we've got Jason Bell, the guy from Florida. He had a good run yesterday, a little bit down the order today though, but with 9 minutes remaining, maybe he's got the opportunity to step forwards with another quick lap. It looks like he's going to be finding a little bit of space to get a clear run. But yeah, the 935, the retro livery looked, I thought it looked very cool, and Edward was pretty happy about that. An older design that had never been used before, and the blue is the box colour of the Carrera Slot Car Company. So when you bought an old car, it was that kind of. It's not quite a Golf blue; it's a different kind of blue. But yes, it's almost sort of NASCAR kind of retro, kind of late 60s. Little bit of STP, Graham, correct. A little bit of Richard Petty in there as well. But it's quite something, And he's driven a lot of 12-hour and 24-hour races around the world as well. In the meantime, Frank Kraling, 8th position for him. Is that how the car comes out of the factory, Matthias? Or is it all white or all carbon? How do they get delivered?
This is neither the original look like it's from the factory now. Yeah, it's the white, and we have then the carbon fiber parts on the car, and that's so we produce the cars. Yeah.
So all he's done is put the yellow stripes down the middle
to have some identification or something different. Yeah. So yeah, but as you already mentioned, there was so much passion on the development of both of the cars, of the GT2 and of the 935 as well, for sure. For example, little Joe from the development, we tested the GT4 and the GT2 RS Club Sport together, because we developed the cars nearly very close together. So we did the testings with both cars on the same test tracks all the time. Because of our here Monster GT2, sometimes the project team started to give the car names. So, and because of the rear ring, and we had a first step of the side blades, which somehow remembered from Asterix, the rings on the
Asterix
helmet.
the Gaul.
Exactly.
The little
the side blades
planes.
the side blades from the rear ring. So we had another version where they came up, and somehow they remembered on this
Asterix
the Asterix, and then the project team named the GT4 Asterix because he's the smaller one, and for sure the GT must be the Obelix. And then our prototypes just were Asterix and Obelix.
Brilliant. It's not just Sebastian Vettel who has nicknames for cars. That's what we like. But it's interesting with the rear wing end plates on the 935. They've got the 919 lights in as well. So there's a little bit of LMP1 continuation.
Yeah, that was and that was very crazy as well. That we really was middle in the development of the GT2 race car. We just said we make a very small team of enthusiasts from the GT2 project team, where we said you have all freedom you need, just make the car possible. And there was so much involvement from everybody who was in this project, and so much ideas we brought in, and so that there was so many ideas born, like the rear rings from to carry them over the idea from the 919, and the new headlamps you see, and these small analog watches for the booster and for the spot chrono, and so such some small details which just say, hey, come on, we have to do that.
Perfect stuff. Okay, still Perfetti quickest on a 2:23.1. Top four at the moment are all in the pits. The most recent quickest guy is Kraling. He is in 6th position. He did a 2:26.5 a moment ago. This looks like Philip Neufert, yes. Philip is currently in 5th position for his number 5 car as he goes down Kemmel Straight. Back though with Kraling. He's in 6th position as he unleashes the power down the hill, continuing down towards Pouhon. He's on his way. Time remaining 5 minutes.
But still lap times coming in, including, as you say, from Neufert, Kraling, and also Sir Chris Hoy in improved time, just outside the top 10. Chris with a 2:27.672, very much in the mix. And a very neat and tidy session from all these drivers, bearing in mind, well, 2 or 3 things. The newness of these cars to all of them. I'll catch up with a quick story from Christian Reed from yesterday on that front in a moment. But the fact that we're talking at 700 horsepower under their foot here, things can go wrong very quickly in those kind of contexts. But it's a great example of just how well controlled this performance has been, not just by the car but the drivers themselves. Christian Reed, we've seen the 77 car earlier in the session. That car currently 7th, man behind Proton Competition, the biggest privateer effort in Porsche GTE racing in the world. Got his car just a couple of weeks ago before he left for the WEC Prologue and the European Le Mans Series in Barcelona, where 3 of his 4 cars were 911 RSRs were on track.
He's had a busy week, hasn't he?
He's had a very, very busy week for all sorts of reasons.
And a very hot week.
But meantime, the crew back at the shop were putting the 77 car into its full Proton Competition Dempsey Proton Racing livery. Comes to Chris Hoy, under 4 minutes to go now, and Chris is improving again, I think, on this lap. He's got a quicker first sector than he did last time around, more or less where he was in the second.
Graham, I was walking through the paddock yesterday. The GT2 Porsche is on show. It's like bees around a honeypot. There's also the brand new Audi R8 LMS GT2 car, and there was a little kid. He was about 9 or 10 years old, and he went, "Wow, look at that, Daddy!" And I thought, "That's it.
It's a visual. It's the visual thing.
I thought it was a wonderful moment.
I've had the privilege actually to be, around when 2 chapters of the GT2 story were written. I was at Bathurst when we had Mark Webber actually lapping the car incredibly quickly around that fantastic Mount Panorama circuit, and was lucky enough to be asked by Audi to actually run the launch for that GT2. And they're going to be very different looking cars. I'm going to stop talking about that because we've got to talk about this 69. It's not the 69 car, it's the 96 car, isn't it? It's the 69 numbers on the side. But that, it is so retro, but that is going to be a future classic if that car gets raced. It's a wonderful colour scheme on any race car. You park that up and people are going to double take, one, just what that colour scheme is, and two, whether or not that's an old 935 or a new one.
Exactly. Well, Stefan Goring is the man behind the wheel, and as I mentioned a moment ago, I said, why did you have the colour scheme? Well, a couple of weeks ago I purchased the Carrera slot car company, and I thought, that's an answer you don't get very often as a journalist. No. That's pretty cool, because there's Revell on the side of the rear wing end plate as well as part of the company. You can see the Carrera logo towards the rear of the car, not Carrera Porsche, but Carrera slot car, not Carrera glasses, and it's just a wonderful blend of simplicity.
And it looks like an IMSA livery, doesn't it? It really does, like, almost NASCAR-like, almost like Richard Petty's colour scheme on the iconic 43 cars. But it's great to see it. There are also, as I say, some wonderful colour schemes on these extraordinarily new cars. Some of these things almost rolled off the truck and handed to customers here. This is absolutely the first time these guys have had an opportunity to get some serious running on a serious racetrack. And of course, what you want in those circumstances is it to be 40 degrees here. Exactly.
Well, he's had a busy week, Stefan, because he was in the ELMS last week at Barcelona, where it was hotter than the sun, and he's also done races in Dubai and Mugello and Spa and Portimao around the world. Now, coming a bit more closer to the Spa circuit, Van der Viesten is the local Porsche man this part of the world, currently in 12th position, 228.1, but he's on a personal best at the first intermediate point by a pretty healthy 1.1 seconds, 47 seconds remaining in this session. Will he be able to get back to the pits and start another lap? No, not quite. So this is his last lap that he's got here around Spa-Francorchamps for qualifying for our Porsche Motorsport GT2 Supersportscar Weekend. We're going to race later this evening. That's at 4:45 here Central European time. And then we've got another race tomorrow at just after 1 o'clock. Go to motorsports.porsche.com for the live stream.
And they will be the very first races ever run with cars to a brand new GT Formula, the GT2 Formula. Still improvements, by the way, in the dying seconds, under 10 seconds now to the checkered flag. As I complete that sentence, I'm going to slightly elongate it. Now the checkered flag comes out. Chris Hoy's improved. He's now in 9th position, up from 11th with a 2:27.449. The times are beginning to come as they unlock the mysteries of what's a very new car for every single one of these guys. So great to see it. Privileged to be able to talk about it. Wonderful to see these cars in action. They look fast when they're standing still. They look a darn sight faster when they're out there on track.
Oh, they're 200 miles an hour when they're standing still. Great lap time from Van der Viesten there. Some 3.9 seconds quicker than he had done before. So he elevates himself to 9th position on a 2:27.0. He'll be happy with that. Green, 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 all the way through the lap for the local man. That brings the session towards a close. Graham, one other question I didn't manage to ask throughout the session. Porsche got a GT2 car, Audi got a GT2 car. Who else is in the pipeline?
Well, there's 2 or 3 we know are working on things. We'll wait and see just exactly when we see products from the likes of McLaren certainly talking about it. We know that Aston Martin are looking very carefully at it. There's certainly others potentially in the mix. There's even a bit of a potential outlier from little company KTM with Reiter Engineering, and they've got a car out there that's been testing in recent weeks that looks as if they've got a plan for that car. It's going to be a very different sort of buyer for that as against, well, let's face it, a surefire investment for any Porsche when it rolls out of the factory. But a limited edition Porsche like this, and not only that, a limited edition racing Porsche like this, they don't tend to sit in the factory gathering dust for very long.
They certainly don't. And the thing about the KTM Crossbow, I saw some initial designs for the GT4 car. Now I know what those designs are going to be for, because it looked like a baby Audi R10 R18 kind of thing.
We will. I hope
we'll see that.
I hope by the time we come back and talk about the race this evening, we'll have had a chance to listen to Stefan Rattel with his State of the Union, if you like, of GT racing, which we always get here on the Friday at the Spa 24 Hours. That's happening in just about an hour's time. I've been prompted that there will be some news about the rollout of GT2 and other things in GT racing. There's always news from Stefan when we're here at the Spa 24 Hours. His blue ribbon event of the year, and hopefully we can share with you a lot more information about where you can see these and those other cars potentially racing next year.
So then, it is Perfetti who's on the pole position, 2:23.1 ahead of Jan-Erik Sloten. Just 1.1 seconds back. Very close then to third with the American James Sofronas there in third position. Klaus Abelin in fourth. Bit of a gap then back to Philip Neuffer, but he'll be over the moon, just having fun around Spa in what a car he's got underneath his right foot. Frank Kraling next up in sixth. Christian Ried ahead of Georg Bernsteiner. Luke van der Feesteen, we saw his fast lap towards the end of the session. Quite a lap for him as well, ahead of Sir Chris Hoy. Stefan Goering then ahead of Jason Bell. Mark Inischen, he was in the carbon car, ahead of Vincent Florendo. And also the number 66 at the back of the grid is Frank Gelf, the German with the Iron Force racing car, is back there. So, well, it'll be interesting to see what Sloten can do against Perfetti. Sloten, you know, he's got that sort of Nordschleife, that Nürburgring kind of background. Perfetti, as you mentioned, Graham, he's got a WC background, a class winner at Le Mans only a month and a week ago. So, yes, it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be nearly half an hour come the race this evening at 4:45 this evening. Matthias Schultz, Director of GT Racing, thank you very much here to join us here, and also thank you very much Graham Goodwin from Toby Moody. It's goodbye for now. Speak to you later.